It's the Fantasy Commissioner Show.
It's the Fantasy Commissioner Show, the show for commissioners by me, a commissioner. I am Reginald James, the Commish. Come join me here on the live feed at rabble.tv. You can also hit me up on Twitter at Commish Show. That's what you want to type in. And if you want to hit me up on an email, you're going to type in the Commish Show at outlook.com. Hopefully that's going to be my only political commentary for the day. That right there. Fantasy football. Fantasy football. That's what we are going to focus on. Happy Friday. Happy Veterans Day. Week 10. Week 10. I'm riled up. But I'm not going to get into what I'm all riled up about. Leave that to the imagination. So on Monday this week, in honor of Election Day, a number of fantasy shows asked listeners to... Official tangent number 1. Dude, let me tell you something. I haven't laughed in days. So look, here's the deal. I was going to say mildly enjoy. I enjoy internet fads, just like everyone else. The Harlem Shake, it was creative in some ways, but I had an issue with it being called the Harlem Shake because there actually is a dance called the Harlem Shake, and it wasn't what people were doing in that whole viral fad. So during that whole thing, I was like, hey, this is the Harlem Shake, and I would show people examples of what the real Harlem Shake was, just you got to try and keep it real. There's enough of co-opting going on, and you need to give people credit where credit is deserved. So the latest thing, the mannequin challenge, that's pretty fun. And yes, you can waste so much time looking at these videos, and the next thing you know, it's a half hour. A half hour has passed. So probably within the next 24 hours, I'll be over and done with it, because I just can't sort through all the bad ones to find the real clever ones, because you never know what's going to happen until you actually watch it. So I'm enjoying this current internet fad, the mannequin challenge. And I thought it was really cool in the Thursday night game with the Ravens and between the Ravens and the Browns, when Flacco does it. He should have done it. And guess what? He wasn't called for a penalty. That could turn into a whole nother discussion as well. But this is what I'm looking for this Sunday. And they're going to get penalized. I mean, we're at a point now where I actually do think it's kind of gotten out of hand. I'm not a big... I think I've seen some really bad officiating lately. But generally, I'm not in opposition of the referees. You know, there's a general undercurrent that, you know, the referees are bad and the games are long because the referees are this and that. I'm not really in that camp. But I have seen some really suspect refereeing as of late. But I know, so the players, they're going to celebrate anyway if they want to. And then you can see the ref, you know, he'll stand there, he'll watch, And if it goes on a little too long, then he throws the flag. I'm kind of in the middle of the road, I guess. I'm kind of old school, too. I remember when players would score and they would hand the football to the referee. I also know during that same time, there were players who would do a little dance or something. I think now, I'm not really sure where I draw the line. I had a discussion with my friend a couple of weeks ago about this. And I kind of feel that I contradict myself when I talk about it, but I kind of feel I try and put myself in the position of the referees, and then I think about I think about how I feel as a fan, and then I think about if I was a player, what I would do. I think if I was a player, if I was fortunate enough to grow into the sport of football, I think I'd be one of those guys that if I scored, to me, the coolest thing to do would just act cool as hell, give the ball to the referee, go to my teammates, shake their hands, pat them on the head. I think that's actually cool. I think that's actually a good celebration myself. And I actually think it's, even in today's sports, I think in today's era of NFL football, I even think it would be even better if people actually did that, because then it would be something different. This era is no different than any other era. Pick a topic. Everyone has to do what everyone else is doing. And with the internet, I was just talking about the mannequin challenge. Things take off much more quickly with the internet. So everyone has a celebration. Someone makes a tackle, they get up and gyrate their pelvis. Someone makes a tackle, they rope a calf. Like the Denver. Now I can't think of his name actually, but the Denver defensive. He was the MVP. He's in the Xbox commercial. So everyone. Defensive players, offensive players. Usually quarterbacks don't do too much. Brady's got the fist pump, kind of not unlike what Tiger Woods does. Aaron Rodgers is known for his fist pump too, and he does the whole WWE wrestling belt cinch, now known by most people as the discount double check. But Flacco doing it, that was pretty cool. Now this is what I was going to say. I'm waiting, and they will get penalized, but okay. I'm shooting off in two different directions here, but here's one. Here's one point. My issue with the celebrating generally falls along these lines, which would be if it turns into like some big Broadway production, I got a problem with that, because that does delay the game. You have to your butt needs to get off the field so the special teams can come on and do their job. So you don't need to score, then go to the side of the end zone, then run and do some high step, then act like you ran through the tape and you won some race. Odell Beckham Jr. He particularly gets on my nerves like you wouldn't believe. But I don't really. But someone scores, they do a little dance, and they get off the field. I'm cool with that. Now that said, I'm waiting for it. And yes, I think they should get penalized for this, but I still want to see this as a fan, which would be someone scores and then his teammates. I'm waiting for it. It's got to happen. I mean, with the way things are done today, it's got to happen. So this Sunday, I'm going to be looking for this big time. So I don't care, whoever it is, Mark Ingram, but it wouldn't be, you know what? I don't think it'd be, who, it would be someone like Odell Beckham Jr. It would be someone like Deshaun Jackson. It would be someone like him. Even Antonio Brown, who I actually do like and respect. It seems like he might do it. I'm not sure how many teammates he has that would do it with him, but when the player scores, I'm just waiting for I'm just waiting for, 3, 4, 5 other teammates to run up, set some kind of scene, and then and then freeze. And I'm gonna laugh, and I'm gonna laugh even harder when the ref throws the flag. So that's what I'm looking for. It's got to happen. It has to happen. I mean, if Joe Flacco, if he is going to score and then go and then pose and do the mannequin challenge, if Joe Flacco did it, come on, we got to see it go down. It has to happen. The only question is, who's going to do it first? Put your bets in, folks. Who's going to do it first? Which player and his team, because it has to be a team activity. One person can do it, but I'm talking about the end zone celebration. The end zone, Flacco threw the touchdown, and he's behind, he's behind his line, so he does his little thing. I'm talking about in the end zone, who's going to do it first? And it seems to me, and I'm going to guess. Now, these are my top candidates. I didn't think about this before I started the show, so I'm totally thinking this right off the top of my head. So if I miss a really good one, you let me know who that would be. But let me think. I think the team that's most likely to do it would be, or the player. I think Odell Beckham Jr. would. I totally think he would do something like that. So who would join him? Shepard and Cruz, maybe. Maybe Cruz would run up and start the dance and then freeze, and then maybe Shepard would act like he had a camera. But then that would take away Odell Beckham from the spotlight, and he has to be in the spotlight because it's all about him. He's OD me. That's what I call him to my people who know me, who I talk football with. He's OD me. So it's got to be something that revolves around Odell Beckham Jr. Now, I would be really surprised if he did something and it was a real team effort. I would really appreciate that, but I don't give him that much credit in that area. But I think he would do something like that. And Deshaun Jackson is hurt, so he can't do it. So that takes him out of it. And I really can't think. I think Antonio Brown, which I think it would be much better than his twerking. I don't even. And the thing is, Antonio Brown, I mean, he scored last week, but that's the thing. See, he scored, he hit the ground, but they were behind. What gets me when players score and they do all this stuff and they're behind by 14 points or something. I would throw a flag on them just for that. Dude, you're behind. What are you dancing around for? Or, the team is behind, defensive player tackles someone, and then he spends the next 10 seconds pointing and gesticulating and gyrating and moving his pelvis in all kinds of directions. Dude, do you see what time it is? You're behind. You're behind by 2 scores. You're behind by 13 points. You need to get your butt off the field so your teammates can do their job. Why are you dancing around? Why are you allowing the time to continue? Why don't you let people get moving? Time is of the essence. That always strikes me curious. Why why are they not thinking about the game? Why are they doing that? So I'm still trying to think. I don't think the Cardinals, no. Philadelphia, no. Giants because of Odell. Rams, no. Maybe, because he's young too. He's a young cat. Maybe Tampa. So if Jameson throws a touchdown to Evans, I could see Evans and Jaquiz Rodgers And I could see, I want to see a big production, because they'll really get flagged for it. At the very least, it'll probably be maybe two people or one. So like if they're in the red zone and Jameis Winston can run up quickly enough, I bet they are coming up with something. I bet they have something planned. I think Mike Evans, Jameis Winston, and Vincent Jackson, maybe Brait, Jaquez for sure. I bet they got something planned. I could see Tampa doing it. What did I say? Chicago, Chargers, no. Green Bay, maybe. Same thing with Jameson. So if they're in the red zone, I could see maybe Rodgers running up and doing his belt cinch, and then two guys freezing like they're wrestling, or someone. I could see someone run and fall underneath his feet, and he puts his feet. No, I don't know. McCarthy. It seems like McCarthy would really be pissed if they did that. So that might be the reason they wouldn't do that. I can't see the. Gase, first time coach. Now I could see Jarvis Landry and Stills, who might not even play, but the Dolphins weren't my first choice. I could see someone like Jarvis Landry and with a couple of his teammates doing it. I could see that. Anyways, I'm looking for that. And I'm just talking about it just made me happy for a couple of minutes. Made me smile just thinking about that. So do me a solid. Do me a solid. Odell, me, Jarvis, Antonio Brown, James Brown. Do me a solid. Who else? Let's see. Falcons. I don't know. Maybe the Falcons. So the second question is, which quarterback is going to copy Flacco? Is it going to be Smokin Jay Cutler? Smokin Jay Cutler. Okay, new folks. Just in case you don't know what I'm talking about. Someone, and if I met this person, I would shake their hand and say thank you. I forget about it, but every once in a while I'll go take a look at this website, and it's it's photoshopped. Now I really don't know whether Jay Cutler smokes or not in real life. I don't know. I don't know that. And that's not part of my knowledge base, whether he does that or not. It would surprise me, but who knows? But somewhere, someone posted a picture of, because Jay Cutler, he just has that kind of face where he just looks like he's annoyed, and I've defended him over the years because I'm like, look, you know what? Oftentimes, it depends on the environment too. You hear that a lot. Well, what you see in the public is not what he's like in real life. I get that. I understand that. You have some people who feel compelled to make sure everybody hears them, sees them, know what they think, that they're Italian or they're from New York or wherever, you know their whole life because they're just going to bludgeon you with it. And you have other people who just, they just sit back. They take things in. If a particular subject comes up that they're passionate about, then you see them light up. If that topic never comes up, you might think they're quiet or antisocial or something. It takes all kinds. So I would defend Jay Cutler because he does. He has this look on his face like he just sucked on a lemon. Like he sucked on a lemon with salt. I mean, like, he just has this sourpuss look on his face all the time. And I have a feeling that he's probably really cool to be around. This is what I've said. But we don't know this. Unless unless we're hanging out or someone, defends him. Who actually knows him. Seems to me, though, that he has a dry sense of humor. Bill Belichick is another. I bet Bill Belichick is fun to be around. I love me some Bill Belichick. And I really think he'd be fun to be around. And I did say fun. F-U-N. Oh, man. And I do think he would be fun to be around. he doesn't really care about the perception of the outside world, the outsiders. I can identify with that. So maybe that's why I think he'd be fun to be around. But had to do some technical adjustments here. But so Jake, so there's this. So he's got this look on his face all the time, this sour look on his face, and so somewhere along the way, someone photoshopped a cigarette in his mouth, because the way he holds his mouth, like he's never like grinning or, and the way his eyes squint with that sourpuss look, it totally looks like he's taking a drag or of a cigarette, or like he's trying, like I don't smoke, but when someone sticks a cigarette in their mouth and, they're talking or they're trying, and they're talking or something and they're not holding the cigarette, their lips are kind of clenched around the cigarette on one end or something. And he looks like that without a cigarette in his mouth. So somebody created this website called Smokin Jay Cutler. And it's all these Photoshop pictures of him with a cigarette in his mouth. And I don't know. I think it's hilarious. And I'm not easily amused, but I don't know. And like I said, every once in a while I'll take a look and there'll be new pictures, and it's just Smokin Jay Cutler. So I wouldn't expect Smokin Jay Cutler to do the mannequin challenge, but I would just love it if he did. I would defend Jay Cutler for the rest of his NFL career if he decided to do a mannequin challenge. That would be awesome. Because with his sourpuss face. I mean, he and Alshon, he could, I don't even know what they would do. I just think it'd be funny. Like I don't know. if Alshon could freeze it, like he's putting a cigarette in Smokin Jay Cutler's mouth. News update. So look, I mentioned this last week. I was supposed to be a guest on the Old School Fantasy Show with Scott Ingle on the Fantasy Sports Network. That didn't go down. We got rescheduled. We rescheduled it. It got moved to Monday, so hopefully things will stay on course. And the Commish, Reginald James, that's me, the FCS, the Fantasy Commissioner Show, will be a guest, and we'll talk fantasy football, and hopefully I'll get to share about what this show is, and maybe some more folks will come around and say, hey, I need help. I'll be here. That's why I'm here. So this week, a number of fantasy shows in honor of Election Day, they asked listeners to come up with their own fantasy amendments. So, in other words, they were asked to come up with changes that they'd like to see in the world of fantasy football. So, I'm going to have my own version of that today. I don't know if I'm going to get through all of the items that I want to get through. Pardon me. But that's what this show is going to be about today. No, I'm not going to answer any questions, not unless someone comes to Rabble.tv and posts in the live feed. Then we'll talk. Or someone decides to tweet me at Commish Show. Do that, and I shall answer your question. Otherwise, we're going to talk about the amendments, and condiments that we would. Wow. Travis Kelce was fined $24,000. Did you see? All right, this was good too. I'm not going to talk about that. I got business. But you know what? It's my show. I can do whatever I want, right? So I can only describe this as, so anyways, Travis Kelce was fined $24,309 for unsportsmanlike conduct. I'm at my Twitter feed because I had to actually, in order to see if someone tweets me, I have to actually bring up my Twitter page, right? Kind of makes sense. So I have my Twitter page up. So the plan is not to answer any questions unless you participate at rabble.tv on the live feed, or if you go to Twitter and go to @Commish Show and you post something, then I will participate. Otherwise, here's the story. Real quickly, referee made a call. Travis Kelce didn't like. Referee throws a flag. Travis Kelce throws his towel at him. There was some distance, so it wasn't like he was hitting him in the face or anything. Let's get that clear. And somehow that struck me funny. I actually appreciated that. Okay. So I'm going to discuss the changes, what amendments I would like to see made in the world of fantasy football. Let's see. But first, let's start with one idea that a number of folks, I heard this all day. They tweeted it. They mentioned it when they called in. No kickers in fantasy. No kickers in fantasy. I don't agree with that one. I'll tell you why. Why? I'll tell you why. Because it seems to me there are a number of things. It seems to me to be one of those things in fantasy that just gets repeated. No one really thinks about it. It's kind of like the toilet seat thing. That women crap with the toilet seat. Official tangent number 2. So there's this whole, and I don't hang out with married couples a lot. Never really did. I don't like it. So I always kind of avoid it. I'm not going to share any past any I'm not going to share any more than that. but if you are around couples a lot and stuff, especially younger couples, especially ones who are newly married, the topic of the toilet seat comes up, and it's always like guys are the villains. Well, you don't put the toilet seat down. Just put the toilet seat down. Okay. And so whenever I happen to be, now this is years ago, because after you've been around for a while, you evolve and you just learn to not put yourself in situations that you don't like to be in. I don't like being around a bunch of couples. I hate it. But back in the day, if I was in the mood, I would pose the question, well, why can't you just put the toilet seat down? Like, a toilet seat doesn't weigh 500 pounds. You don't have to fight through the hordes of Genghis Khan to get to the toilet seat if the toilet seat is up. Like, if the toilet seat is down, that's like a signal for the hordes to stay away. But if the toilet seat is up, then then you have to fight for the privilege of pissing in a toilet. No. You open doors on your own. You turn the hot faucet valve on your own. You will slide a shower door open to get in every morning. You actually put some emollients in your hand and you run them through your hair, and you physically run this through your hair and rinse your hair. But the idea of reaching and grabbing a toilet seat and putting it down is a Herculean task of sorts. Where did that come from? Where did that come from? It's one of those couples things. Yeah, she was upset because I don't put the toilet seat down. Well, you don't have to put the toilet seat down. She's a grown woman. She can put the toilet seat down on her own. Like, what is that? Think about it. I feel that That was supposed to be a door opening. I don't know what kind of doors you have, but I don't know. My doors don't sound like that either. Okay, she's in the bathroom. He left the toilet seat up again. Gah! All right, so now she puts the toilet seat down, right? Now she's sitting on the toilet. That's the best I can do, folks. I'm done now. All right, and she's done. What does she do with her hand? Oh my God, she reaches around and she presses down on the toilet handle. How was that physically possible? I don't get it. It takes more effort to pull your pants up. It takes more effort to pull your underpants up and pull your pants up than it does to just boop, toilet seat, down, boop, toilet seat, toilet seat, toilet seat, toilet seat, toilet seat, down. I've never understood that. If I was in a mild mood, I would just let the silly talk happen in front of me and I wouldn't say anything at all. If I was feeling a little bit combative or even mischievous, then I would jump into the conversation. And every time I was done, it kind of made sense to people. It was something they never really thought about. But there are some of those hardcore, females who are just like, no, I'm sorry. I just think when I come to the bathroom, I should have to just sit down. I should just be able to sit down. And when I get ready to use the bathroom at night and I walk in, if the seat's not down, I'll just fall in the toilet. Then reach back and put the toilet seat down before you sit down. Well, sometimes I'm like half asleep, and this is the classic excuse. Sometimes I'm just half asleep, oh, okay, so you're half asleep, but you get out the bed, you walk all the way to the bathroom, you hike up your nightie, you pull down the underpants of your camisole set or whatever. You go through all those. You go through a whole physical process, but somehow you're too out of it to put the toilet seat down. Oh, and you're not too out of it to flush the toilet, are you? Like, what did the toilet seat ever do to women? Hike up my nightie, pull my underpants down, flush the toilet handle, get out the bed, walk to the bathroom, walk back to the bathroom. But somehow, the process of grabbing the toilet seat and putting it down, well, that's just not possible. If that toilet seat isn't down, man, the world is just a horrible place. I've never understood that. Just never understood that. So you know what you do, guys? Listen. Both parties are responsible for putting the whole damn thing down. The toilet seat and the toilet cover. You use the bathroom, close the whole thing down. She uses the bathroom, she needs to close the whole thing down. Every time you want to use the bathroom, you lift up both sections, whatever, right? Both things, cover and seat. You take your tinkle. Yeah, that's the best I could do, guys. She wants to use the bathroom. She lifts up the cover and she sits down. That way, everyone is in control of their own thing, and everyone is responsible for lifting and no. But we're guys. No, you are responsible for the integrity of the toilet seat. You're such a criminal if you don't prepare the toilet seat for me. Never got that. So, like that. no kickers in fantasy is one of those things where people just say it and they just say it and they don't think. They don't think it through. And then I have these conversations like, oh, yeah. Now, maybe sometime within the next 7 days or 30 days or this year, I will have this conversation again. Or maybe someone will give me a good, legitimate reason why you shouldn't have kickers in fantasy. But these are the two reasons that I get. You ask people who feel this way, and you don't get answers like, well, I just feel it doesn't represent real football. Look, there are no kickers in football. Right, okay, so obviously that should none of us should be hearing that excuse, right? Okay? But we're not hearing, well, I just think it skews scoring, or it doesn't represent real scoring in football. Right? We don't hear that. Okay? Now we can't, or let's say I question, for example, for example, do you want to know what doesn't represent real scoring in football? A quarterback getting 4 points for throwing a touchdown. Now what is that? Now that doesn't reflect real offensive scoring in the NFL. I hear two things. Number one, well, kickers suck. Yeah, that's a real thought out position there. Yep. And we're going to spend no more time on that one. The second reason I hear most often is, well, oh man, I don't get kickers. The scoring is so random. Whoa. Okay. Well, I think that's just lazy thinking. The more experience you have as a fantasy player, and if you play DFS, daily fantasy football especially, you definitely understand this concept much better. You learn it more quickly, which is, you'll discover that sometimes it's not about choosing the best player on the team. It's like when you first start playing fantasy football and you have your very first draft. The first 3 rounds, at least, are easy. It's round 7, 8, 9, 10 that generally, in my opinion, is going to oftentimes determine how well you do. It's not going to be the first round person the person you pick in the first round. So after a while, you learn it's not about choosing the best player on the team in fantasy or actual. For example, if you had the opportunity, if I said, hey, I'm going to give you Tom Brady, you can have Tom Brady or Blake Bortles, you'd laugh in my face. Because for most of us, I think Tom Brady would be the obvious choice. Like, they look around to see if they're being punked. Or for you older folks, they'd be looking for Alan Funt and the Candid Camera crew. Right? But in the NFL world, no one would take Bortles. Right? We're talking, hey, Tom Brady, Blake Bortles. Like, whoa, Tom Brady. That's the NFL world. But in the fantasy world, he's not really on a good team. But in Bortles' case, every week, they are usually behind. Now, Blake Bortles is having problems, but he's not horrible. He is not horrible. That's always a debate. A couple weeks ago, I heard this debate. They were talking about whether Tom Brady's the greatest of all time and what he would have done if he had better receivers, blah, 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 blah. Okay, but here's the deal. Blake Bortles is, and it depends on who you talk about. I talk football every Sunday with my cousin, and we're always talking about these kinds of things. And he'll ask, he likes doing this too. He'll say, "Who do you think is?" And then we'll debate it. Bortles is one of those guys. I'm in the camp that I don't think he's a bad quarterback. I don't think he's one of the best in NFL. But I don't think he's bad. And I'll tell you why. Because when they get behind, which they do often, he'll put up great fantasy numbers. The Jaguars would end up with another loss, right? But if you have him on your fantasy team, you don't care. Not necessarily on a good team, but every week the team gets behind. That team is forced to pass. At least that's how they. And that's where the bad quarterbacks hurt you, because when a team is behind and that quarterback have to pass a lot, and he stinks, then you're in trouble. That usually doesn't happen with Bortles. Bortles will give you garbage time points. Not last week, 2 weeks ago. Oh man, who was it? Kansas City. I think they played the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm not going to look it up. And I think it was Kansas City. And Kansas City scored a lot of points. And in fact, now I am making this up because I'm trying to remember, and it could be wrong, so bear with me on that. But I believe at halftime they hadn't even scored. Maybe they scored like 3 points or something like that. I don't know. But in the second half, Bortles put up 300 yards. He ended the game with over 300 yards rushing, 300 yards passing. So if you are an inexperienced fantasy player, you don't even consider anyone like Bortles. You don't consider anyone like Tannehill. You're just thinking Brady, Rodgers. And then you learn to evaluate better the game of fantasy football. Because that's this big theme for this season on the FCS, the Fantasy Commissioner Show, is, those folks who they want to mimic football when it's convenient. But then when they want to not mimic football, they come up with all these different rules and stuff. But when they want to justify why they won't listen to the members of their league, they claim it's because they want to mimic football. I'm talking about commissioners. And this is one of those things. You learn that you can have a quarterback on a bad team who has a bad record, but that has nothing to do with the game of fantasy football. If that guy is always forced, why do you think Jim Harbaugh got the reputation for being called Captain Comeback? And I always thought to myself, you know what? Big deal. But he was called Captain Comeback was because the Colts weren't that good. And they were always behind. So he was forced to pass to catch up. And oftentimes they did. Captain Comeback. So you might not want the Colts to be your franchise team in real life at that moment. And you wouldn't bet money on the Colts to win during that moment, because they might not, they weren't that good. Come back, win. Oh, okay. They had one good season, I think, with him. I don't know. I'm not going to get into it with any historians at this moment. So listen, the Colts with Andrew Luck are such a team this year too. Okay, but the point is points are points. The point is points are points. The Colts don't want to lose, but why would you care about the fortune of the Colts as long as you can get points from Andrew Luck or Bortles? In fantasy, you need points. I just stated the obvious. You need points. You don't need Andrew Luck or Blake Bortles to actually win their games. Okay, so come on, let's go, let's get with it. So what does this have to do with kickers? Glad you asked that. The same thinking applies, guys. It's just easier to go, I want Tom Brady. There are different strategies when it comes to picking kickers. One could be you want a kicker who is on a high-scoring team. That's what a lot of people do, which makes sense on the surface. But if you pick a team that is very successful at scoring touchdowns, then you're getting 1 point per score. You're not going to get a lot of field goals. Now, kickers who kick field goals, those are the ones you want for fantasy. They get a combination of field goals and those extra points, and that's even better. Now, you can also posit that the odds are good to get that combo with a high-powered offense. Yes, and I would agree with that. Now, after a couple of weeks, if you're actually studying, if you're paying attention, you'll notice certain teams that hit the red zone can't really score touchdowns. The Colts have been that team this year. That makes their kicker. That makes Adam Vinatieri, their kicker, valuable. You'll get more 3-point scoring opportunities, right? Obviously, you don't want a kicker with a bad offense, because if they can't get into the red zone and they don't get a lot of scoring opportunities and they turn the ball over, that's not good for your kicker. Well, is that good for your wide receiver? No. Is it good for your running back? No. Well, the kicker isn't any different. But somehow along the way, well, kickers are just random. Kickers suck. I don't want to have no kickers in fantasy. These scenarios, guys, these teams and their matchups, what you think is going to transpire, it takes some thought when you're trying to go, well, do I start Julio Jones or Emmanuel Sanders? There isn't a difference. The only difference is that you usually don't have 2-3 kickers on your team, and you only start one. So that should be even easier if you think about it. Never, ever have I ever read or heard anyone go, I have 3, need to start 1. Blair Walsh, Adam Vinatieri, Will Lutz. Never have heard that question. So why the hate? It should be easy. But people just repeat that myth over and over again, and they don't stop and think about it. Well, that's what we're doing right now. We have no problem with looking at a matchup. Last week's game, Green Bay and the Colts. On paper, is projected. It was projected to be a high-scoring game. So now we know that in seasonal and DFS, we want the players in that game. Now, how do kickers not qualify in that same line of logic? I'm asking you, why aren't kickers viable considerations when looking at these matchups? They're not, but other players are? That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Week 2. Everyone remember that Giants-Saints game? That was going to be a high-scoring game. Well, a lot of people didn't make any money in DFS because there was chalk all over that game. People chose their players accordingly. Now, why do some people think choosing a kicker somehow doesn't work in the same way? Huh? In this case, the idea was that both teams would be able to pass easily. That's why it was, Breeze, Eli. Well, I don't know. I should do Breeze. Well, I should do Eli. Well, they're visiting, and the Saints don't play well on the road, and they're outside. So I'm going to give the edge to Eli. People put all the... My head is exploding right now, just thinking about it. People were all over that, and they're thinking it through. But kickers, you can't do that? Doesn't make sense. The secondaries, they weren't that good. Oh, high scoring. Eli Manning, Breeze. Their respective receivers, they were big DFS plays. And if you had those guys on your seasonal team, you were like, yeah, woo! And unlike last week, Green Bay and the Colts, that was projected to be high scoring, and it played out. Giants Saints week 2, it didn't. The score was 16-13. But the teams were in scoring positions, and the Giants, that was an awful game. Awful game. And the Giants kept stalling. For example, well, who's their kicker? Josh Brown. The score was 16-13. The Giants won that game. 10 of those 16 points were made by the kicker. High-scoring game. I'm going to start Eli. I'm going to start O.D. Me. I'm going to start Shepard. And at that time, I'm going to play Rashad Jennings. And I'm gonna play Drew Brees and Snead and Cooks and Brandon Cooks. Will Lutz. Kickers are so random. I wish we didn't have to start kickers. Come on. 10 points isn't bad for a kicker. Not the best, but hey, most people will take that. They will take a double-digit deposit by their kicker. The Saints scored 13 points. And Lutz got 7 of them. 7 out of the 13. 7? Is that right? 6. 6 out of the 7. 6 out of the 13. So look. Just think about it. Just think about it. Mythbuster. It's just so random. Choosing a kicker is no more random than deciding what other player to play. It's a myth, and I'm tired of hearing it. Think it through. It should make sense to you. Help me. Kill the myth. Now, if you don't put a kicker in your league, who cares? I don't care. But I just want people to stop. Do what you want. Do what you want. I don't even know the rest of the damn song. All right? So, but do what you want. People, right? Free world. Right? But at least, if you're going to get rid of a kicker in your fantasy league, at least do it based on something else besides, oh, it's just random, because that's not true. Not any more than the rest of the roster positions. Right? And you don't see anyone going, well, I don't want to start receivers because that's just random. People would laugh at you, but people say that about kickers and like, yeah, why do we have kickers? Yeah, kickers suck. Come on, man. It makes a big difference if you're paying attention. And I will tell you this, as an experienced fantasy player, it makes a difference. You take the time to think about it. You take the time to sort it out. You take the time to go over the schedule, the team roster, just like you do of everything else. A couple of years ago, Justin Tucker. He was the kicker. He was the kicker to have because the Ravens, they just could not score touchdowns. They just couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. For whatever reason, they just kept getting stalled. Now, this tendency, it was there for all of us to see, man. Every week, Justin Tucker was putting up 15, 18 points. Are you kidding me? For a kicker? So it's your choice to just dismiss it all. Or you can look at things a little closer. That will make you a better fantasy player. Tired of that myth, man. It's a position in football, and the kicker should be a roster position on your fantasy team. If you're treating a kicker like the rest of the rostered positions and you choose them according to the rest of the personnel, you'll see it really does make a difference. We can come up with many examples. We got a good quarterback, and he's got bad receivers. Who's he throwing it to? Some quarterbacks can overcome that. Tom Brady. Other quarterbacks, Case Keenum, can't. Well, whoa, hold up. I'm not saying Case Keenum is as good as Tom Brady. I heard those words come out of my mouth. I get it. You understand my point. You should. There are some good quarterbacks who can overcome their personnel. Not often, though, but it can happen. We're paying attention. Everyone wanted, well, let's put it this way. Aaron Rodgers was one of the top quarterback picks this year. Oh, man, Jordy Nelson's coming back, and he's got Randall Cobb, and he's got Devontae Adams. And they just can rattle off who their receivers are, right? And they got good receivers. Oh, Drew Brees. Oh, yeah, Drew Brees. Oh, Brandon Cooks. Oh, man, he's a beast. Oh, and Willie Snead. Oh, man. Oh, and then they drafted that guy, Michael Thomas. I don't know what he's going to be like, but, man, he's ranked pretty high for the rookies. Oh, man. You're thinking about the quarterback, and you're thinking about the personnel that he will be working with. So why can't you go, so if they're going to be a high-scoring team and they play in a dome, and when they're at home, it won't be their play won't be affected by the weather. Oh, Will Lutz, I want that kicker. It doesn't take too many more steps past the initial pass, thinking about your quarterbacks and receivers to get to the kicker. It doesn't, folks. If you think about it, if you do it, if you allow yourself, it's not that many steps to get there. Unless, it's just random. I don't care. It makes a difference. You'll see. You'll see. It really does. It's not as random as people dismiss. It's not as random as people dismiss the play to be. And once again, choosing which kicker you want, which kicker to play, is no more of a random act than choosing David Johnson this weekend. How about that? Why does everyone want David Johnson this weekend? Huh? Because on paper, the Cardinals should run literally all over the 49ers. Duh. Right. Well, here's a sharing moment. I have Adam Vinatieri, so I know, that's why I use that as an example. I know what the Colts have been doing all year. And I've been making bank with Adam. Great choice. It was not a random choice on my part, by the way. It wasn't a random choice. Bye week this week for the Colts. You know who my kicker is for this week? Catanzaro from the Cardinals. On paper, the Cardinals should put up crazy points. I also happen to have David Johnson. So every time David Johnson scores, I don't get 6 points, I get 7 because I've got the kicker. Think about it. And because on paper, and yes, just like the Saints-Giants game, that game, I forget the total. The total was projected to be something like 53, 57, 56, 58, something stupid like that. And the total points ended up being what? 16, 13, that's 29 points. Well, anything can happen. That's right, anything can happen. And then we can have a high-scoring game projected, just like last week with the Green Bay and the Colts, a lot of touchdowns. Well, it happened. You want to call something random? So don't take the kickers and throw them in a random bucket and then act like everything else is science. They're no more random than any other thing that we're trying to decide how to put out on each week on our fantasy rosters. Just not, folks. So yeah, I'm putting out Catanzaro. I'm playing him. And that was not I got to get a kicker for bye week. Yeah, let me pick this guy. It doesn't matter. It does. It does. It does. See, I told you. I didn't even get to the things I wanted amended. So maybe I'll mix that up with some of the questions and stuff next week. Maybe I'll do that. But I just think about it. You say that all the time. Yes, I do, and I mean it. Think about it. People don't think about stuff. It doesn't. Fantasy football, politics, they just repeat the same thing over and over again, and they don't stop to think about what they're saying. They don't stop to think about whether it makes sense. And there's no one around them to go, hey, wait, just hold on. Just stop and think about this for a moment. That's a lot of people. It's nice to be around different people who can go, wait, why do you say that? And it doesn't turn into a fight. people's awareness expands. That's a good life. So I'm doing my part. So I say no to getting rid of the kicker. Just think about it. If you want to be lazy and don't want to put in the work, which once again, just like the damn toilet seat, it's not a Herculean effort to go, all right, they're going up against a weak secondary. Oh yeah. Oh, they're bad against tight ends. Oh yeah, I want to start Antonio Gates. Oh, the Trufant this weekend. Trufant is hurt. It's not going to play. Kind of want to pay a little more attention to the Philadelphia receiver crew. Ooh, that's no different than putting the kicker in the same scenario and playing it out. It's just not. Thanks for listening, folks. This is Reginald James, the Commish. Join me on Twitter at Commish Show. You guys have a good week 10. I'm out of here. Have a good weekend. Until next time, see ya.